Are they thinking of me, or is this just my imagination? Let's investigate. Have you ever been quietly going about your day when someone suddenly just enters your mind so strongly that you can almost feel their presence? Perhaps you've broken up with someone, or there's someone that you can't be with, or someone who never really loved you in the way you wanted them to. And in that moment, you wonder, is this simply me pining for them? Or are they actually thinking of me too in that moment? So in this video, we're going to explore what you might actually be sensing and how to distinguish between an intuitive connection and your memory and hope and emotional attachment. Because when we love someone deeply, the emotional connection can continue long after the relationship has changed or even ended. But emotional intensity alone doesn't necessarily mean that the other person is reaching towards us. And I truly understand this experience from a personal perspective because I found myself in this situation many times in my life. And I know how heart-wrenching it can be, particularly when a person you love doesn't always love you back in the way that you really long for them to. You might feel as though there is still something moving between you, and you might think about them unexpectedly. You feel their presence and a memory arises, or enormous emotional intensity. And you might even feel certain that they're about to contact you. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. And it's in this uncertainty that we become caught between not knowing if this is our own intuition or just our longing and our pining for them. So, can we really sense when someone is thinking about us? I believe that we can sometimes become aware of another person through the subtle field of awareness and the subtle field of connection that exists between us. And this may be particularly noticeable when we share a deep emotional bond, a significant relationship, or an intense period in our lives. But sensing someone doesn't automatically tell us why they have entered into our awareness. It doesn't necessarily mean that they want to get back together. It doesn't prove that they feel what we feel. And it doesn't always mean that they're consciously thinking about us in that precise moment. And so this is where our discernment becomes so important. When we miss someone, our mind naturally returns to them over and over. It revisits conversations and memories, possibilities and unfinished moments. And our body can also remember the relationship. A particular song or a fragrance, maybe a favorite perfume they would buy you, a place, a time, a day can activate an emotional response before we've consciously recognized that association. And that experience is real, but it may be arising from within our own memory and our own emotional landscape. An intuitive image or an impression often feels slightly different than emotions coming from our own landscape. An intuitive impression often feels slightly different from the emotions arising from that landscape. Rather than developing through a familiar chain of thoughts, which may create our own story, the intuitive impression may arrive suddenly and without an obvious trigger. And you might be absorbed in something completely unrelated when their name or their face or their presence appears within your awareness. There can be a particular quality of unexpectedness about it, as though the impression has entered the room rather than being deliberately summoned by our own mind. You notice a sensation in your chest, in your solar plexus, stomach area, your heart. You may see their face inwardly or hear their name or simply know that something concerning them has shifted. And the impression itself is often brief and relatively neutral when it first arrives. The emotion tends to come afterwards, sometimes along with a story that we tell ourselves that we really want to be true. But this is one of the distinctions that I encourage my students to observe. What arrived first? Was there a quiet, spontaneous image or vision, followed by an emotional reaction? Or had you already been missing them, thinking about the relationship or hoping that they would contact you before the impression, vision, or presence arose? Neither answer invalidates your experience, but asking the question helps you understand its possible source. When an image or an impression arrives, try not to immediately build a story around it. We automatically want to go into our head and create something that we want through hope. The best thing to do is to pause when you have the sense of presence or when you have a visual image or anything coming through. Just pause and become the witness, observer of what's happening. You might quietly acknowledge, I've just become aware of him or them. And then notice the original impression before your expectation begins to reshape it. Where did you feel it? Did you see something, hear something, or simply just know something? Did it feel quiet and spontaneous or emotionally charged and repetitive? Was there an external trigger? And most importantly, what did you actually receive before your mind began interpreting? And perhaps the original impression was simply his face. Then your mind added, oh, he must miss me. He must regret leaving. He's going to call. But those additional conclusions were not necessarily contained within the original image or presence or impression. And this is the difference between receiving and interpretation of intuitive impressions. You may genuinely intuitively sense someone without understanding or without knowing why you're sensing them. And this could be because they might be remembering you. They may have dreamt about you, or they may be passing through a place associated with your relationship. And so that memory and that emotion is coming back into the field and you're sensing that. Or alternatively, something within your own life may have activated the memory of them. But without further evidence, we can't really know for certain. So a helpful practice is to write down the experience without creating the story and embellishing it. Record the time where you were, what exactly you were doing, and the exact intuitive impression that you received before you felt it in the body. And then this is the important step, release it. Don't send them a message purely to test whether you were right. Don't search for them on their social media for confirmation, and try not to spend the following hours waiting for the phone to light up. If they contact you, you'll have a piece of observable evidence that you can compare with your original intuitive impressions. And then you become to develop a language if you can verify. If they don't contact you, that doesn't mean to say that you're necessarily wrong. It means that you don't have enough evidence yet to decide what the experience meant. Over time, this practice can help you recognize your own intuitive vocabulary, and you might discover that certain sensations consistently correspond with someone contacting you, while other experiences arise when you're lonely or grieving or emotionally vulnerable. So you can see what's arising from within your consciousness and what's arriving from the sense consciousness of the person that you're aching for, whether it does come from them or whether it's coming from you. So both of those situations deserve your compassion and your love and your kindness. This is not about judging yourself for still loving someone, and nor is it about forcing yourself to stop feeling that connection. It's about learning to hold your experience gently without allowing uncertainty to govern your life. Unreciprocated love can be especially painful because there's often no clear place for all that love to go that you still carry. Your heart continues to reach towards someone who may not be able or willing to meet you there. So we're forced to love from afar and accept that it won't be returned. And in that situation, the possibility that they're thinking about you can become a source of hope, but hope can also keep you emotionally suspended or blocked and prevent you from engaging in your deep healing journey. Even if you are sensing them accurately, those thoughts don't necessarily represent their intentions. You're just feeling that connection. Someone may remember you and still choose not to reconnect with you. They may care about you and still be unable to offer the relationship that you want or need. And they may think about you and never act on those thoughts. That can be painful to accept, but it's also deeply liberating because your life doesn't have to remain on hold while you wait for another person's private feelings to become visible. You can honor the connection without surrendering your emotional well-being to it. I might be sensing him, but I don't yet know what that means. And then gently return your attention to yourself, your body, and the life that's here before you. Perhaps the most important question that we can ask is not, is he thinking about me? It's also, what happens within me when I believe that he is? So does that belief bring peace, or does it just reopen the wound? Does it allow you to love without possession, or does it keep you wanting for someone who hasn't actually chosen you? And this is very painful, but our intuition can gradually lead us toward greater clarity, self-trust, and emotional freedom. It should not require us to abandon reality or overlook another person's actions. So, yes, I believe it's possible to intuitively sense when someone is thinking about you, but discernment asks us to remain open without immediately turning an impression into a promise or false hope. You might intuitively sense someone and still choose to move forward without them. You may love someone and still release the hope that they will ever reconnect with you. And then you wish them well in their lives. And you may honor what that relationship meant without allowing it to determine what becomes possible for you next. If you've ever suddenly intuitively sensed someone you loved and later discovered that they'd been thinking about you at that time, I would love to hear about your experiences in the comments. And if you're currently carrying an unreciprocated or lost love, please know that your feelings don't make you silly or weak. They simply reveal that you have loved deeply. And the work now is to hold that love with tenderness, discernment, and care, especially for yourself. If you'd like to explore this in more detail, you can always book a one-on-one session with me online. You can find my details in the links below.